Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Matt and it is Terrifying Tuesday. First and foremost, I hope each and every one of you are having a great morning, evening, dawn, day, or dusk, whenever it is you're watching this. I hope you're having a great time with your family, friends, loved ones, doing whatever it is that makes you happy because that's what's most important in life. Now that I got that out of the way, please do like, share, and subscribe, guys. And then for anybody that's new here or anybody, the old viewers as well, do always look in the description box because there will always be more information in there. Brief synopsis, a list of the starring cast, your director, the runtime of the cut I am watching, any trivia on there, like anything that's worthwhile of mentioning, and then always a link to a trailer or a link for a scene in the movie, because sometimes you need to see something before you can make that final judgment, before you jump on in and check it out, because sometimes my descriptions I try to keep them vague, just so I want you guys to go in a little blind, because that's the best way to go into a movie is try to go in as blind as possible. That way you're not like going to be disappointed or anything like that, or you're watching for something. That's why I hate watching reviews where they give away spoilers, because a lot of times people are watching them without ever seeing the movies, or if they do see it, they're not seeing it till afterwards, and the shock factor is already gone, unfortunately. And that's a huge reason why I like to keep it so vague on a lot of the descriptions of the movies, because I want you guys to check it out for yourselves. Alright, now on to the movie of the day. Today is a really interesting one. It's one I saw when I was a young kid. I was probably like 12 or 13 when I saw it, so it's been a hot minute. This one came out in 1988. It was filmed over 1987. Didn't get released till 88 or 89, something along those lines. It sat for a little while. This is one of the very first starring role of Brad Pitt's career. Before he did this, he was in television stuff and a couple uncredited roles in films, or in television stuff really early in his career, where I'm guessing he did not have any lines. I'm guessing he probably walked through, or if he had any lines, it was one or two tops. We also got Jill Schoelen, however you pronounce her name. She is from, I know her mostly from Popcorn and The Stepfather. She did the 90s Phantom of the Opera with Robert Englund. I believe she was in that one. And then, of course, the 1986 version of Babes in Toyland with Keanu Reeves and Drew Barrymore and Pat Morita. That one is another one I know her from, which is actually a really good children family flick for the holiday season. That's 2 movies 2 days in a row that I brought up the holiday season. I don't know why, it just happened to work that way. Very strange. And then we got Donovan Leitch, however that's pronounced. I know him from this and that's about it. He did 1 or 2 other roles that I noticed, but for the life of me, I can't think of the names of them. They were semi okay type movies. Most of the stuff he did, where he was he was in Glory, he was just a small bit player in that, and that was probably the biggest movie he'd ever been in. Excuse me. Woo! And then we got Roddy McDowell in here, which I'm guessing most of you probably know him as Dr. Zayas from the Planet of the Apes franchise, and then of course he was in Fright Night and. Trying to think of some other great stuff that he did. Overboard with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn is a fun one. He played like a butler type in there, where he puts up with Goldie Hawn's shit, and he's quite funny. And then we got Martin Mull in here, who's always hilarious. He was in. I remember watching him in the Roseanne television series when I was growing up, and laughing my ass off at him and Fred Ward. Fred Ward. I think that's who it was. Him and he played a gay character, and his lover on there they were just absolute gold when them two were on screen. I'm not gonna lie, but Martin Mull, he's one of those. He's done a lot of different things. Like he is a comedic actor. One of the very first things I do remember seeing him in was probably Mr. Mom, because he plays what's her face. I can't think of the mom's name now, but he plays her boss, who's kind of a lech himself. He's one of those characters you just want to pop in the mouth. And we got Brenda James in here, who she did a few other things, but off the top of my head, the first thing I can think of is Slither from back in, I think that was 06 or 07, maybe 05. But if you haven't seen that, check out Slither. That one's a very, very good one. It's an alien on Earth infecting human type thing. And taking over their bodies. It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers type stuff, but not quite as serious as the Invasion of the Body Snatchers films. It's got a lot more humor to it. There's definitely more going on with the effects on that one, and gore and things of that nature. And then this is directed by none other than Rospo Wallenberg, and this is 1998's Cutting Class. Yes. Like I said, Brad Pitt, Jill Schoelen, and Donovan Leitch, however that's pronounced, Leitch. Which, by the way, on here there is a interview with him, an interview with her. Two audio interviews on here. One of the director Rospo Wallenberg, and then another one with, I believe it was the director of photography on here. And there is the cinematographer. Excuse me, the cinematographer is the other audio interview on here, and there was a talking audio commentary track as well, and that was brought to us by the Hysteria Continues. They did a commentary track for this one. It's an interesting one. I really like this movie. I need to check it out for the commentary track, though. I watched this probably 3 times in total. Once when I was a kid, once last night, and then once this morning, because I wanted to keep it nice and fresh in my brain over some of the stuff that happens in this. Which, by the way, Rospo, his only other claim to fame was he was a writer. He did stuff for Deliverance, the original Lord of the Rings. I believe it was the original cartoon, the animated, not franchise, but the animated film that they made back in, I believe it was the 70s. I could be very wrong, but they also did a Return to the King and The Hobbit as well. He designed some buildings. One of his biggest designs that he ever did was a building that stood right across the street from the Twin Towers. One that was shooken up very, very badly during the 9/11 attacks. So the guy he's seen and done a lot of things in his time. A very interesting man. The interview on there is like 45 minutes or something like that. But I listened to it and did my thing as did whatever as I was listening to it. Treated it more like an audio podcast type ordeal at that moment, because they do show pictures of stills from the film, but it's nothing that in my opinion you really need to watch to hear it, because you're not getting pictures of Rospo or anything really behind the scenes that is I guess really adds to the movie, or gives you another insight, a visual insight, as well as on top of the audio. But no, it does. It's definitely one you just need to listen to it. So yeah. Anyways, now this release here is from Vinegar Syndrome. By the way, they released this a couple years ago, back in 2018, I believe. I just got my copy a few weeks ago. I did not buy it back then. No, don't get it wrong. Don't get me wrong on that. I kind of worded that a little funky. It came out back then, but I just bought it for the very first. I just bought it like a month ago, and I got it a couple weeks ago. One of those ordeals. But definitely wanted to get this one. The old DVD for this one was wretched as fuck. I can't. It is so ugly. It's got a really bad picture of Brad Pitt on the cover, which is always good. The first person it seems to be listed, or the first face you always see on this movie is his. It's you can't. I mean, yes, he is a starring character, but you could just show Jill because she is your main role. But who am I to judge? I mean, Brad Pitt brought the asses into the seats. God damn it! Like I said, this has got some multiple, couple interviews on here. It does have a reversible artwork as well. I kind of like that one. It's alright, but I prefer this blue one over that one. Now, when they released this, I think they had like something insane, like 4 different slipcovers for it. I couldn't justify doing that. It's a decent movie, but it ain't that damn good, you know. To justify to drop that kind of money on four different slipcovers for one movie, just boggles my mind. Anyways, now what is this about? Basically, it's about this girl that she's like the head of her class. She's the big it girl. She's what every girl wants to be in their school. She's super popular. She's dating one of the most popular boy in the school, which is the star of the basketball team, which is Brad Pitt. They are like what you call a power couple in high school. This dude here, Donovan, Brian is his character's name in here. He is a kid who is very deeply disturbed. He killed his father when he was much younger, and he went to a psychiatric ward, and now is free and going back to school. How this happened, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that, like how he was able to just go back into the schooling system where he was with all the same people without any like hiccups involved. It seemed like it didn't show him going through the trouble of trying to get back into the school. It was just automatically, oh yeah, here he is, he's back in, it's day whatever in school, and here he is. It's kind of weird. I guess I'm just being too picky about things, I guess. It's kind of, I don't know. I mean, to just get into a school like that, it's just bizarre. Anyways, there's killings going on one after another. It may be Donovan, or it may be Brad Pitt, or it may be a third person overall. Martin Mull's character is one that you'll see throughout the movie. He plays Jill's father. His character is one that every time he's on screen, it's kind of a comedic role. That's one of my biggest beefs in this movie is it has a hard time taking itself serious, or I don't know if it's trying to be serious or if it's trying to be silly, because like Martin Mull's character is believed to be dead, or at least you're led to believe that he is dead. You see him randomly throughout the movie, and he is still alive. After you see him the very first time, you're like, oh, okay, obviously he lived. But there's this whole weird scenario where these high school kids are walking through the swamp, and a couple of them step on him, and they don't even realize it, and he's all, help, help, and people are thinking it's a frog or something like that. It just, one of those things like, is this serious, or are we being goofy right now? Because that is definitely slapsticky in my opinion. But like I said, one by one, there's teachers that are being picked off. There's a cool little death scene that involves a kiln and the art teacher that I really like. There's a really cool one that involves a trampoline and the pole that you put the flag on. It's, the pointy pole, the spear looking pole that you put the American flag on. It involves that. By far my favorite death of the whole movie. There is, I'm trying to think. I don't want to give away any more deaths because it's just too much to do that. You basically, yeah, that's what I want to say for the deaths. I know that's pretty dumb, Matt. You just basically just dropped everything where you were. I know. But as far as like any kind of like ratings go for this thing, because it's kind of jumbled. It is what's his face, Rospo's first feature film that he did himself, directed himself, his first and only that he did the entire thing. He went uncredited as a co-director for The Exorcist 2, I think it was Exorcist 2 or Amityville 2. I think it was Amityville 2. I don't know. It was one of those two. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong, but it was one of those two. It definitely has its flaws. Because he is not a seasoned veteran behind the camera, and a lot of his stuff he did behind the scenes was more of a writing role. That's what he was most known for, it seems like, because he did stuff like the Excalibur, did some stuff for Deliverance. Like I said, he did something for Lord of the Rings, not to be confused with the Lord of the Rings from the 2000s, not those ones, the old ones. But his lack of being a good director definitely affects this. Jill Schoelen, in her interview, she is very, very open about how she thought this was a terrible movie. She would, if it wasn't for Roddy McDowell and Martin Mull, she would have never took this role. She thought that the director was not very good. She was very conflicting towards him. It just didn't seem like they got along as well as what they should have. One of those ordeals. But then when you watch the Donovan interview, he's all like, yeah, man, it was great. I got to work with Rospo because he did this, and this, and I'm a huge fanboy of Excalibur, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. I really like that. You got to see two different ends of the spectrum for as far as people that hate the movie and people that loved being in the movie, one of those things. It's probably, like, on a technical side, this thing's probably a 2. It's a little below average on that 1 through 5 scale because it has all those hiccups in there. Because it doesn't go one direction or not another. It goes serious one direction, then it goes silly, and then it comes back in serious again, and then it starts to feel like a 90s sitcom in points. It's weird. It's a jumbled mess, but it's a fun jumbled mess. Now, as far as in the entertaining thing goes, this thing's probably a 4 out of 5. This thing's like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 type movie, depending on who you're watching it with. I watched it with my fiance last night, and we had a blast watching it. And so it's one of those that I think almost any horror fan could watch, even with newer horror fans, because it's not super gory. People that don't like a lot of gore, this is definitely one that'll do you. It won't do you wrong. Anyways, this is a terrible review. I'm sorry, guys. I am fumbling on what to say about this movie without giving away too much, because it is such a basic premise. A kid from a mental asylum gets out, and there's people dying one by one. Is it him or is it somebody else? It's a very basic story. So keep that in mind, folks. So don't look for any crazy plot twists. No, this is not the usual suspects. It's not that. Alright, guys, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. I got shit to do. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm not 100% on what I'm going to do for tomorrow. I'm not even 100% on what I got lined up for the rest of the week, to be quite honest, folks. But we'll see. I'm going to wing it. Love your faces.